Over time, it turns into a kind of exhaustion that doesn't fully go away, even when you rest. The version where you look at your life and you think, nothing is actually wrong. I have so much to be grateful for. Why do I feel like this? You don't have to feel overwhelmed to be stressed, and this is where most women get it wrong. In fact, some of the most common stress patterns happen even when everything looks fine. There's a kind of stress most women don't recognize because it doesn't look like stress. You're not in crisis, you're not falling apart, you're functioning, you're showing up. And this might be you, right? But underneath, there's a low level tension, a feeling of always being on. And this is where it starts to show up in your body. Because over time, it turns into a kind of exhaustion that doesn't fully go away, even when you rest. I'd like to share something with you. Because I've been in this, not a dramatic version of it, the quiet version, the version where you look at your life and you think, nothing is actually wrong. I have so much to be grateful for. Why do I feel like this? And over the past couple of years, I've been going through my own experience of this kind of hidden stress. And it wasn't one big thing, although it could have been. But actually, I think it was the accumulation of a bunch of small and mid things, caregiving responsibilities that never fully stopped, the mental load of holding everything together for other people, the constant switching between teacher and practitioner and caregiver and employee, sometimes all in the same afternoon, the same day. And what I noticed was that even in quiet moments, my body didn't actually quiet down. In fact, that's when I noticed what was off balance the most. I'd sit down to rest or to go to sleep, and my mind would still be running through everything that happened during the day and needed to happen next. I'd wake up in the morning already thinking about things I didn't get done the previous day that I needed to get done this day. And then I'd fall asleep still processing all of the things. And the stress wasn't loud, it was just there. And what I've come to understand and what I want to offer you today is that this kind of stress is often the hardest to address because we don't recognize it as stress. We just think of it as life, as part of our normal life. And if we've been living this way for such a long time, we can just think this is the way it is and this is the way it's supposed to be. But your body doesn't make that distinction. Your body actually is communicating with you what it needs when it's in balance and when it's not balanced. I was reading something recently that said burnout isn't just about work, it's about how we live. And that has really stayed with me because most women I speak with and work with, they don't feel like their job is the only problem. That's probably you too. They feel like everything is a lot. The schedule, the responsibilities, the mental load you're carrying, the constant switching between roles throughout the day, the never getting a break. And even when nothing feels extreme on its own, the way life is structured still keeps the body in a constant state of output, of doing, of never creating space. Because hidden stress doesn't usually come from one big thing. If we think about it, maybe the big thing's a car accident and you deal with the car accident and then you start healing right afterwards. But the hidden stress comes from accumulation, from the way your attention is constantly being pulled in different directions, from the number of decisions that you're making all day long, from never fully completing one thing before moving to the next. And what's interesting is that burnout doesn't always come from doing too much. It often comes from carrying too many things at the same level of importance. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels like it matters. So your system never settles. And your nervous system adapts to this, right? It says, okay, we'll stay alert. We'll keep going. We'll hold this together. But your body doesn't get a clear signal that the effort is over. There's no real shift from doing to resting to output to recovery. And so the stress doesn't resolve. It just carries over to the next day and the next day and the next day. And I want to get a bit specific here because I think when we hear the word stress, we picture something obvious, right? I said a car accident, a deadline, a conflict, a crisis. But hidden stress looks much quieter than that. It looks like checking your phone before your feet hit the floor in the morning, having a mental list running in the background constantly, responding to people all day, messages, emails, requests, phone calls, and feeling like you never quite catch up. It looks like moving through your whole day and realizing at 9 p.m. that you never actually stopped. Not because you were lazy, not because you didn't try, but because every time you had a moment to pause, something else needed your attention. And over time, that constant background load becomes the baseline. It becomes your new normal. And you stop noticing it because it's always there. And your body starts to adapt around it. It tightens, it braces, it stays in ready mode until that activated state starts to feel so normal that you don't even know what it feels like not to feel that way anymore. So instead of asking, why am I so stressed, or why do I feel this way even when nothing is technically wrong, I want to offer you a different question. Does my body ever get a clear signal that it's safe to stop? Because that's often what's missing. Not effort, not discipline, but completion, space. A moment where your body actually registers, I'm done, I can let go, I can come out of this state. And without that, your system continues to stay in a state of low level activation. Your nervous system isn't just responding to stress. It's responding to constant output, constant decisions, constant low-level pressure. And even when that never turns off, your body stays in a state of readiness. Even if your life doesn't look stressful from the outside. Or maybe it does, right? Maybe to other people it's looking stressful, but to yourself, you're like, this is normal. This has actually happened to me in the last year and a half, 2 years. I'd be talking to people saying all the things that I was doing. And the common response was, that's a lot. You're dealing with a lot. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm doing all these things. I'm getting everything done. But it had just become my new normal. And it wasn't a big thing that happened. It was accumulation of tasks, of doing, of caregiving over time, day by day, month by month, and year after year. And this is why you can feel tired, that tired but wired feeling, that restless but exhausted, that you can't fully relax. Because your body hasn't actually exited the stress response. And this is where rhythm becomes so important, because your body is designed to move in cycles. Periods of activity followed by periods of rest. time to digest, time to repair, time to process. But when everything blends together, when there's no clear transition between effort and recovery, these processes get disrupted. And that's when you begin to notice it in your digestion, your energy, your sleep. That feeling of being off in your body, not broken, just a bit out of rhythm. So what actually helps here? Not doing less in a dramatic way, not trying to eliminate stress completely, right? That's not our life experience here on earth, but creating small moments of completion and reset throughout your day. This can look like pausing between tasks instead of jumping immediately to the next thing. Taking a breath between responding instead of reacting. Giving yourself even a few minutes where nothing is required of you. Slowing down transitions, especially in the evening, because your body needs signals. It needs to feel this is done, that part's complete. Now we can shift. And one of the most powerful ways to support this is through practices that guide your system out of constant doing and into a state of supported rest. This is where things like yoga nidra, restorative yoga, gentle somatic awareness become incredibly powerful because they don't just give you rest, they teach your body how to recognize it, how to recognize the moments of softness, of support, of safety. And I'd like to leave you with this. Stress isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's built into the way that you're living. And the question isn't, how do I fix this? Is where in my day does my body actually get to stop? And maybe for you, you don't even have a time during the day where your body's actually stopping because sleep just becomes one more thing that you have to fix, right? But your body doesn't need less stress. It needs moments where it knows it's safe to come out of fight or flight into rest and digest. And that's something you can begin to create one moment at a time. Before you go, if this episode resonated with you, that feeling of being fine on the surface, but still carrying tension underneath, I want you to listen to episode 8, You're Not Lazy or Exhausted, because what we talked about that day and what I cover here today are deeply connected. The hidden stress is often what leads to that bone deep exhaustion. The exhaustion that you can't get up in the morning, or the thought of taking a shower is just so overwhelming. And that episode will help you understand what's happening underneath it. And if you've noticed this pattern in your own body, I invite you to download the Yoga Nidra I have below. It's a 12-minute practice. It's a place to let the body pause, rest, lie down for 12 minutes, and begin to move the nervous system into balance. I'll put the link in the show notes. If this is you, email me at chelsea@chelseajohnsonayurveda.com or DM me on Instagram at chelseaayurveda. I'd love to know what your body is reacting to. What is the hidden stress that you're living with, and how is it showing up in your body? Be well and nourished. That's it for this edition of The Body Rhythm. Thank you for joining me. Be well and nourished.